Are you a fan of the Iron Sysadmin podcast? If you are, don't forget you can support the show via Patreon at patreon.com/IronSysadmin. Or you can buy merchandise at teespring.com/stores/IronSysadmin. And thank you. Are you a fan of the Iron Sysadmin podcast? If you are, don't forget you can support the show via Patreon at patreon.com/IronSysadmin. Or you can buy merchandise at teespring.com/stores/IronSysadmin. And thank you. Are you a fan of the Iron Sysadmin podcast? If you are, don't forget you can support the show via Patreon at patreon.com/IronSysadmin. Or you can buy merchandise at teespring.com/stores/IronSysadmin. And thank you. Are you a fan of the Iron Sysadmin podcast? If you are, don't forget you can support the show via Patreon at patreon.com/IronSysadmin. Or you can buy merchandise at teespring.com/stores/IronSysadmin. And thank you. News, ops, and a little bit of paranoia. Welcome to the Iron Sysadmin Podcast. Welcome to tonight's episode of the Iron Sysadmin Podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Nate, and joining me tonight on this very special show, not our Christmas episode or something, but our 4-year Marc. This has been 4 years.
What? What?
Yeah, that Marc, not that Marc.
Oh,
It's been 4 years since we started the show, and I'm joined tonight by Uncle Marc and Jason. So, say good evening, everybody.
Good evening, everybody.
There you go.
Good evening, everybody.
Hey,
So,
can I just say that life is so much better on the Iron Sysadmin because we can hear the intro music?
yeah, I fixed that. It turns out, I had this suspicion that it was noise suppression in Zoom, and guess what? Noise suppression in Zoom was turned on, and I turned it off, and now you can hear the intro music to you guys. The stream always got it fine. At least I think you were fine. I hope you were fine.
Yeah.
Nobody complained.
friggin' Zoom.
You'll have to forgive Mark. He's finally hit puberty tonight, so his voice is a little cracked.
But it's time to change. Yeah, Brady Bunch.
So tonight we have a slightly different show than normal lined up. We're going to do things a little bit in a different order than we normally do, and you'll find out why when we get to the main topic. So basically, we're going to start tonight with announcements, because I'd like to get the normal housekeeping stuff out of the way. So, first of all, Patreon update, because patrons are important. You guys get to be first in tonight's show. We earned 2 more patrons since we recorded our last show. We're up to 20 patrons now for $87 a month, which is awesome. You guys are great. And let me get the list in front of me so I can look at the camera while I read it. Word. No, names, not words. I mean, they're kind of the same. Names are words, I guess, but they're not really words. Right? They're names. Anyway, rootisgod. He actually put in his website address, but I don't know. I'm not going to give the website online. Just, I don't know. I feel like that's weird. rootisgod. You can guess what the website might be. Bruce, Robert, Matt, David, Solemn, Erwin, Trooper-ish, Linux Sys 666, gimpyb, Ryan, Marc with a K, DeMentor from PowerShellOnLinux, John the Nice Guy, Marc with a C, Julius, Andi, Jay, Charles, and our old friend 22532.
Hey, you two. Hope you're here tonight.
Thank you to each.
We'll have to create a new Patreon level so that you can have your website announced.
Maybe that's it. That wouldn't be a bad idea. Maybe we'll do that. If anybody wants advertising on the show, you got to be a $50 a month patron. Maybe I won't set it that high.
Iron advertising level?
Yes, iron advertising level. That's see, this is the kind of gems that you could have been giving me for the past 4 years, and you choose now.
Look, in my defense, I'm pretty sure 2020 has been a lot longer than 4 years.
You're probably right. We're actually like 6 years old now.
Yeah, it's like we just started this.
All right, and of course, if you want to support the show and get cool merch out of it, you can go to our Teespring shop, teespring.com/stores/Iron Sysadmin. One of our newer fans, Josh, recently showed me in one of our work meetings that he's got a sticker, and I think he said he got a shirt too. So thank you, Josh. It's very much appreciated. I hope you enjoy the shirt and the sticker.
Oh, it's getting real.
It's getting real. We have more than just me and Jason wearing the merch.
Some of it.
You're just waiting for the.
Are you sure the shirt isn't the sticker? He just
could be. He just put a very big sticker on it and slapped it on his chest. So I think Marc's just waiting for the day that we hit it big and I give out merch to all the co-hosts.
No, I just keep forgetting to buy the damn thing.
Jason, do you still have your shirt? How's it holding up?
It's fine. My stack of shirts is approximately like 10 feet tall at this point. So I usually wear my Iron Sysadmin shirt
once every 3 months,
about 1.5 times a year.
Yeah. Jason has a serious shirt collection. I don't know if I want to call it a problem because you seem very proud of it.
It's a FIFO queue.
It's a FIFO queue. So I was just curious how yours is holding up. Mine's holding up great, and I've had it for like 3 years now. Ever since we started selling them. Mine was the first shirt we ever sold because I wanted one to see how it held up and whatever. And it's still holding up great.
Yep, mine is just fine. I've worn it a number of times, and it looks as good as I did when I bought it. So.
Yep. You know how black shirts like fade usually over time? This one seems to be holding up pretty good. So, Jason, do you have anything to announce that might be happening, like, tomorrow? Think hard.
Yeah, I guess.
Think real hard.
I think so. There's something going on tomorrow. It's coming to me. So tomorrow is BSides, Delaware, starting at 8 in the morning because apparently I don't like to sleep. And we will be running all day. And turns out we've got enough content for 2 days, which is honestly, given the short time period that it took us to put this thing together, we were a little surprised. But we will be running all day tomorrow, and then until about 3 o'clock on Saturday, 2 or 3 o'clock on Saturday.
That's awesome. I know.
So it's all virtual. It's on Eventbrite. It is free unless you want to toss us some money, in which case it's $5. So you can get your tickets there, and then it will send you over to Discord, and you can jump through all the crazy hoops to get onto Discord. We will be streaming to both Twitch and YouTube. We have an MC, so that should be interesting. And then I will be giving a talk on Saturday about containers, assuming I can finish writing the damn thing.
How's that coming, by the way?
It'll be fine. I probably have enough content to go the whole time already. I'm just trying to, I don't know. I try to refine it. I'm bad at sitting and demoing my talk to see how long it actually goes.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of go, if I have 30 slides and I spend 2 minutes on a slide, that's an hour. Okay. So I'm at about 20-ish slides right now.
I actually, I did my own presentation in front of a camera last night so I could get an idea for how long it's going to be. It landed exactly at 45 minutes.
What are you talking about?
I'm revamping my "So You Want to Start a Podcast" talk because, well,
So you want to start a podcast? Oh God, I can't sing today.
no, don't sing tonight. It'd be
So
the voice isn't there.
apparently, yeah, for our listeners who are looking forward to my Elsa impressions and whatnot, I apparently am coming down with some sort of a cold or something. No, it's not COVID, but my voice is a little croaky, so I'll probably have to hold off on the singing tonight. I know you're all sad.
I'm sure everybody's very sad, especially that one guy who said he doesn't listen anymore because you sing.
Whatever.
Oh no, it was your jokes. He didn't like your jokes. That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, tough, right? We all have bad jokes.
These things happen.
I ain't changing.
Right. So, yeah,
Suffering.
as we've already talked about, I'm also presenting. Mine is tomorrow at 4:30, if I remember correctly. So that should be fun. It should be a good time. And like I said, mine should actually be on time. I know last time I saw you present, Jason, I know exactly the problem you're worried about.
Well, was that the second DerbyCon?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
your 1 hour time slot that took 15 minutes.
To be fair, second DerbyCon, I wrote the talk, I revamped the talk. I was terrified in my room, rolling through the talk again, and every time I did the talk as a test, it came out to about 45 minutes. Now, doing the talk in my room alone by myself when I'm comfortable and not scared to death is one thing. Doing it on stage when I'm terrified is a totally different thing. And I did that talk in less than 20 minutes. So,
yeah, I think it was like
Yikes.
15 minutes or something.
yeah, I've gotten better. So I'm not. But it's going to be weird. I've never done a talk sitting at a computer with no feedback. So I have come watch the fun on Saturday because I have no idea how this is going to go.
Yeah, it turns out that I have a lot of experience talking into the internet. It's weird. So I was actually completely comfortable staring at myself in a monitor doing doing my test talk.
You're sitting there saying, "Man, I'm pretty."
So yeah, I don't think it'll be too bad, but who knows? We'll see. I don't speak a lot in public, but I've done it a number of times. I did this particular talk at BSides Delaware 2 years ago. So to be honest, I was surprised that it was accepted. I guess you guys are desperate.
Damn.
Well, I mean, we accept most anything.
Yeah, I know.
I'd be hard pressed to not get accepted.
I know. Well, that would make me feel even better if if it wasn't accepted then. But yeah, it's been revamped a bit because the space has changed since we started Iron Sysadmin. So things are actually a lot easier and even cheaper than they were when we started. We started this show with like zero budget, so.
Yep.
All right. So beyond that, we don't have any new reviews, at least nothing that I came across while I was preparing the notes for tonight's show. So there's really nothing to review there. I don't know. Either of you have anything really fun you want to talk about before we get into the main topic, which is also going to be, I hope, a lot of fun?
So I had, I had something I was going to talk about, but I'm going to punt it to our next show. Give us
Okay.
some more time for the main topic.
That's fine with me.
Yeah, let's just jump in right to the main topic.
I'm gonna drink some more beer.
My B-sides announcement, and I can wax poetic about other things later.
Awesome. So I'm just going to go ahead and play this music here. So, what is our main topic going to be tonight? Well, I mean, it's our 4-year episode. We've recorded 91 of these things, including tonight. So I guess we've technically recorded 90 so far. And it's been kind of a fun ride. Our first show was recorded on November 8th, 2016. And I went back and to the Googles and I asked about, what kind of interesting news did we have? Because, you can do that. Go look back and say, oh, on this date in history, we had this interesting thing happen or this fun thing happen. Well, go Google November 8th, 2016, and you'll find out why I have no news to report for November 8th, 2016, because it is a minefield, and we're going to move right along in from there. We started out recording on Tuesday nights because that just happened to be a night that worked well for Jason and I. The whole concept for the show was just kind of a whim of mine, and I wrote Jason an email or a Slack or God, who knows what, 4 years ago, asking him if he'd be interested in being a co-host for this idea for an ops-focused show about being a sysadmin. And surprisingly, he didn't immediately reject that. Part of this was me trying to, I don't know, I've always been a little more of an introvert, and I always, it felt like doing things like this. Coincidentally, I also started a YouTube channel, the Jeep channel that I run, around the same time. I guess I was just feeling like it was time to get out of my shell. So here we are, 4 years later, both that and the Iron Sysadmin podcast are still running along strong. And I don't know, I think it's helped. So what we're going to do tonight, aside from just reminisce about the old shows, are I actually have queued up episode 1 of the Iron Sysadmin podcast. And once we're done talking here, we're going to listen to that show. Jason's cringing already, I'm sure. And we're going to sort of critique it, looking back at what this show was 4 years ago. So some of the main things that I remember about when we started the show is that we had no mixer, we had no live stream. Jason and I would basically hop on, what were we using at the time? Was it, I don't even remember. Was it like Hangouts or something? Or did we use Skype? I don't even remember what we first used.
No, we never used Skype. Screw that.
Oh, that's right. You wouldn't use Skype.
I refuse
Maybe
to
it
use
was
Skype.
Hangouts before Google killed it.
It might have been.
I have to use Skype for work, and it's a horrible experience even today. I think we used Google Meet or Hangouts or whatever name it was back then. And that started the long crusade of me having to have a Chrome browser on the side that I would install and complain about endlessly because it tried to install all sorts of rootkits on me.
So, what we would do is we would record locally. If you remember that from the first like 5 or 6 episodes, we would each fire up like Audacity with wasn't there like some kind of a loopback module or something we had to run so we could, I don't remember anymore, but we'd basically record ourselves locally. We would do this funny little dance before the show to try to synchronize our audio, and then at the end of the show, Jason would send me his his audio file, which took another like half hour. Then I'd have to stitch them together and then edit the show that in the evening. So that very quickly turned into we need a mixer because it made things so much simpler because I was able to take the output from whatever we were doing, put it into the mixer. I could bring in a soundboard and all that. But this is all technology that you guys maybe don't care so much about. When we started doing the live stream, that's when we started using Hangouts on Air, and that's the thing that Google killed on us. And that was when we switched. We tried, what was it? Lightstream for a little while? Was it Lightstream? StreamYard? One of those. And then we finally ended up on OBS like we are now. So, anyway, the primary complaint we used to get was that Jason's voice sounded funny because he was using a Bluetooth headset. Remember those?
Yes, and that started the whole Jason sounds funny, and Jason's mic sucks, and Jason's
Uh-huh.
mic sucks. I got a new mic
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
I've
you
had for a
you
couple years,
you
and
got a new
it
mic
got better.
around the time I got the mixer, you got that mic if I remember
Yep.
correctly. So we
Yep.
both bought the same mic, and since just recently I got another new mic, but
Where'd you
that
get
other
this
one
one?
was working pretty well.
What's the new one?
This is a Rode pod mic, which is working out pretty well so far. I'm liking it. The other mic, it wasn't just for the sake of upgrading. The other mic sounded fine, but it had like this problem where if I touched it at all, it could cut out on me. And of course, that's not a great state to be in when you're doing a live show.
No,
So
mine hangs above me, and I just sort of ignore it.
yeah, I don't know what it was. It seemed like it had to do with the switch, the on-off switch, because usually when I wasn't using it, I would flip it off and then I would put it out of the way. Well, I think the switch started to go bad because it seemed like if I had to turn it off and back on again, it would not come back on right. Like I don't know, maybe the contacts are just dirty, but whatever.
The universal IT fix. Have you turned it off?
Turn it
and
off
on
and
again?
back on again. So, at any rate, we're going on and on. Mark, have you ever listened to the first episode of the show?
I think I did as an intellectual exercise, but I don't know if I got through the whole thing.
Yeah, that's possible.
And don't take that as an insult.
No, so
And I'm here trying to think because I came in kind of late. I'm now looking at like all the Marvel characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think I might be like Ant-Man. Like he came in like 3/4 of the way through, right?
yeah, right.
And he's a bit of a smartass. So I think I might be the Ant-Man of the Iron Sysadmin
There we
Cinematic
go.
Universe.
We're gonna call Mark the Ant-Man now. That's what I should have done.
Is it no longer Uncle Mark? Is it Aunt Mark?
It's Ant Mark.
Oh.
Except it's spelled A-N-T, not A-U-N-T.
Uh,
What I should have done is gone back to our first 15 or so episodes. Remember we were doing the intros. First it was Star Wars, and then it was Dresden Files books.
Yes.
Because we didn't have enough Star Wars movies once we
See, and there's a
got
new
to
Dresden
episode
Files
like
book,
6.
so we should have done a new one of those.
We
There's
could
2
have,
new Dresden File books.
but it wouldn't have lined up with the number of the show. We'd have to go back and record episodes 23 and 24 again.
Well, we could call it 23A and 24A.
Okay. I tried that once.
That's not even the right numbers, though. 23 and 24. That's not right.
Maybe it was 24 and 25. I don't remember. I don't remember what
No,
number
no,
it's
no.
on. There's a lot of those books, a whole lot.
No. It's are we even in the 20s?
Oh, you're right.
16 and 17.
I was
The
off.
only
I was
wizard-
off by 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
the only
16 and
wizard named
17.
Harry that matters.
Yes, the only wizard named Harry that matters.
Yes. Yes. Agreed. And if you are not a fan of the Dresden series, what the hell's wrong with you? And if you are a fan of the Dresden series, have you read the latest 2 books? Because yeah, you need to read them.
I
Crap.
may have, and Jason knows this. I may have reached out to Jim Butcher's publicist to find out if he would come on the show and talk to our viewers. But
We want you, Jim.
yeah. But apparently he wasn't taking interviews at the time that I wrote, and they totally put us on his list. So who knows if that'll
And we
ever
will continue
happen.
following up until he's on the meeting or on the podcast.
All right. So speaking of guests, one last thing before we get started on this. Next week, I know this is out of order because we're usually 2 weeks apart, but I mean it. Next week, the 19th, because it's not Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is the following Thursday, so we had to move the show up a week. We're going to have Ed Scotus on again to talk about the Sans Holiday Hack Challenge. So that's going to be a good time. Don't miss it. It's only 1 week from now instead of 2 weeks from now. So put it on your calendars. We're going to be recording a little different, because of the holiday. And then we'll pick up with the usual schedule in December, probably until Christmas time, and then that'll blow it all out of the water again. We'll have to mess it up. But then January, of course, we'll be back to normal. So just keep that in mind. Ed Scotus is supposed to be on the show next week to talk about the Sans Holiday Hack. This is getting to be a yearly thing for us. We love having Ed on the show. We love hearing about holiday hacks. Such a fun little challenge to do during the holidays. So be sure to check that out.
So what new crazy historical security device is he going to have this year?
Yeah, right. God, that man's office is amazing.
Yes. Yes, it is. It's a museum.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. Without further ado, I'm going to start playing episode 1 of this show, not of any other, like Star Wars or anything. Because who would want to watch that again?
I suffered through episode 1 as part of my project. Oof. Yeah.
And we're going to critique it basically as we go. So, Jason, I hope you enjoy listening to episode 1 of the show for the first time ever, except for when we recorded it. I haven't listened to it since it's aired. I don't know how many people listening that are in the chat right now have you actually listened to episode 1. The first thing I usually tell people when they contact me when they say, "Oh, I just found your show," is I say, "Don't go back and listen to the old shows. It's not worth it." So here we go.
It's horrible. Can we stop it?
We haven't even started it yet.
Oh, all right. I'll wait a second.
All right, well, here we go.
Deja vu.
I know, it's like we just did this. Welcome to the Iron Sysadmin Podcast, your source for real-world sysadmin news and a healthy dose of paranoia. Healthy dose of paranoia. We still have that.
Right, but you totally modified
All right, welcome
that.
to the
Like the
first
intro's not like that
episode
anymore.
of the Iron Sysadmin Podcast. I'm your host, Nate, and joining me is...
I'm Jason.
All right, cool. So since this is our first episode, I figured we'd start out with some introductions so people could figure out who we are and why they might actually want to listen to us drone on about... I think I hear like a fan in the background. Like an air conditioner or something?
You mean...
Yeah, I'm Nate. I'm a sysadmin. I've been a sysadmin for, 10 years or so. And I've been in IT for 15 or whatever. Jason and I have shared sort of an intermingled career over the past 15 or maybe even 20 years at this point. So that's how we know each other and how we decided to start doing this podcast. So, Jason, you want to fill us in on your background?
Me? I've been a sysadmin for about a year and a half, officially. Although I've been doing sysadmin for probably 20 years. Before this, I technically was a network engineer. So, but I'm one of those weird guys that does pretty much everything. So while I'm still primarily a network engineer, sysadmin is definitely something that I did a lot of.
So you could say that the two of us have a similar skill set, but strengths on opposite side of the house.
Right. Exactly.
Because I'm a sysadmin with some network chops, and you're a network guy with some sysadmin chops.
Yep. And I've recently jumped over to the other side, and now I'm a sysadmin. So I'm looking to hire you on as my new network admin.
Yeah, that'd be perfect, right? A good. I just want to say I haven't touched a piece of network gear in about 5 years.
I want to know when the singing starts. I was told there would be singing on the show.
I don't think there's any singing. I don't think either Jason or I ever sang on the show.
That's not a thing I do. Yeah.
Okay.
I also have not touched a piece of network gear in I don't know how long.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Hey, I was told you could play the radio at a reasonable volume.
From the previous careers, right?
Right. Exactly. So, why are we doing this thing?
Why are we doing this thing? There's a ton of podcasts out there that are security focused.
Why are we still doing this thing?
And there's a ton of other podcasts that are software focused. And I've never really run across a podcast that is a real world sysadmin, in the trenches sort of podcast. By the way, Admin Podcast was out at the time. Just for some reason, I didn't know.
Why not indeed?
Why not indeed? So if anyone's curious about the title, Iron
Yeah, right.
Sysadmin.
It's kind of like Iron Python and Iron Ruby, right?
I was thinking more like Iron Chef.
Okay, so built this box, and here's a weird service to install?
Yeah, so imagine that you're a sysadmin.
I was funny back then,
and you've got 8 hours to, complete this list of ridiculous tasks. And now it's a reality TV show. Iron Sysadmin.
Okay, so build me a Kubernetes cluster with all the bells and whistles running on Active Directory.
Wow. That sounds tricky.
Just cooking up the weird crap, aren't you?
In fact, it almost sounds wrong.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the real answer there is I need a new job. But
yeah,
okay.
right. Or new leadership.
Or new leadership. Yes.
Pumpkin!
If we just move it to the cloud, we don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah, let's just put it all in the cloud. That makes it easy, right? Then you don't have to worry about anything.
And we're still saying that 4 years later.
Isn't it funny?
From here, what's the general format that we're looking at? I don't think we're going to do intros every week.
Nope.
The plan is
that would get boring quick.
That would get very boring quick. The plan is to go over some news that I have stolen or borrowed from other podcasts that have talked about these things because they're different podcasts and they did news. Plus a couple things maybe we found ourselves. And then we'll have a main topic chosen by whoever gets into the notes first. And we'll chat about that. And our target here is, what are we looking at, about 30 minutes?
Yeah, I guess we'll see how long.
An hour?
How long?
That's hilarious.
Tell me you hit pause. Tell me you hit pause.
I did.
30 minutes Iron Sysadmin time.
30.
It takes 30 minutes for any shit to actually happen.
Now, bear in mind that even that episode that we're going to work through tonight is an hour.
That all?
30 minutes. That's hilarious. Little known fact, I don't know if I ever talked about this on the show. I based Iron Sysadmin on two other shows. I've mentioned Paul's Security Weekly a number of times because I thought they had a fun format that just felt more like a bunch of friends getting together, talking about IT, talking about news, talking about just, like hackery things. And the Defensive Security Podcast. In fact, Jerry Bell, host of the Defensive Security Podcast, helped me get things started. He's the one that basically gave me some tips on how to get us both recorded and get it stitched back together and all that stuff. Being that I'm not listening to as many podcasts as I used to without my commute, is Defensive Security still around? Are they still making shows?
I am about.
I feel bad about that.
April for my podcast, my audio podcast.
So you're way behind.
I'm a little bit behind. I know that they have made several this year. I just don't know how current they are.
I'm glad to hear that. I know Andi was sick for a while. Lurg was sick, and then I suppose he recovered because I think I've seen him and maybe even talked to him since then.
They have rebuilt him better, faster, stronger.
Awesome.
I'm not dead.
That's good. He's not
he
dead.
Continues to be Malicious Link's AI sidekick.
Right. Okay, back to the fun.
We get
30 minutes.
So I'm going to run out of disk space.
I hope you cleared up enough disk space for this podcast recording.
I've only got like 200 gig available. I don't know if that's enough.
Yeah.
Oh,
a little.
You said until we run out of steam. Compression. We'll figure out what a good time is at some point.
Yeah,
Let's
right.
see where it goes.
Right.
And we never really did.
I'm much
All right,
funnier
so I
in
guess we
person.
can move on to the small set of news articles we've come up with, huh?
Yep.
This is the part I'm kind of looking forward to.
So
How has
first
IT
is an
news
article I ran
changed in
across,
4 years?
A couple days ago, directly from Red Hat. They're touting their common criteria certification for Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7.1. And
More of a
The first piece of news we ever covered was about Red Hat. Is that surprising?
That's a little prophetic, I think.
press release than an article, but
yeah.
And Jason
I
being
guess you call it
pedantic.
So what is the common criteria, Nate?
That's a good question. We were just chatting about that.
I wasn't good at news then either.
So according to Wikipedia, common criteria is basically a a third-party verification that you're totally secure, or that you meet a certain set of common security criteria.
Absolutely. Secure. Problem solved.
Right. So if you install Red Hat Linux 7.1 out of the box, you're completely secure. You can go home.
All you have to do is not plug it into anything, right?
Yep. Yeah, that sounds about
Then
right.
it's secure.
Right, because, I don't know, first thing I'm going to do with a brand new box is check for updates.
Yeah, it does seem odd. So the press release is dated October 26th, and at the time, Red Hat 7.2 was the latest release of Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and yet 7.1 is what's mentioned specifically in the release.
And somewhere right around that same time was a kernel vulnerability that had come out.
It doesn't matter, though, Good does old it? dirty copy on write.
Yep, there it is, the dirty cow.
Oh, dirty cow!
Dirty cow!
So,
Careful who
I
you
mean,
say that in front of.
Okay. So you've got
You haven't heard the stir?
No, what?
Apparently, some people who may be a little more easy to offend than others don't like the name.
Sure. Anyway, so you've got Red Hat 7.1, which is Common Criteria Certified. That's been announced while 7.2 is out, and around the same time that a dirty bovine was released into the wild. So
Right.
what I don't understand here is how you can call it. I mean, you have to update. There has to be a set of updates at some point.
Okay, Marc has some.
So this is where there's some danger when you don't necessarily understand what you're criticizing, and I do this all the friggin' time.
And we did it plenty.
Do you know what I'm going to say, Nate? Now
Maybe.
that you're a Red Hat technical account manager.
You go ahead and say it, and then I'll agree or disagree.
Do you know what was special about RHEL 7.1? I'll give you a hint. It's the same thing that's special about RHEL 7.7. Okay. So Red Hat, being targeted at enterprises, has what they call extended update support releases. Or we call that EUS. Right.
Yeah.
Ubuntu does LTS, for instance. So RHEL 7.1 was an EUS release. So whenever there's a vulnerability, and so what we tell our customers is you can stay on the EUS for basically 2 release cycles. So you get to skip 7.2, and then you would then go to 7.3 to stay current.
Yeah, I don't think Jason and I knew anything about EUS at the time.
And it's fine because it's great questions. How is it possibly secure? Because what happens is Red Hat they'll backport. They don't use the mainline production kernel, the current kernel. They would take the fixes, backport them to the current RHEL kernel first, which would be 7.2. Jason was right. Younger Jason was right. And then those fixes would then be backported to 7.1, which was EUS. So that's why I can assure you RHEL 7.1 was indeed secure. And the thing about this common criteria and other certifications like that is they can take a while.
Yes.
And so when I'm a federal customer or something, I don't want to be updating all the time, but I want it to be secure. That's kind of why Red Hat does that. And as a Red Hatter, this whole push and pull between is it new versus is it old, blah 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 blah. It actually is one of the more challenging things to try and educate people about.
Yes.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if they or easier to understand sometimes if they would, instead of just saying 7.1 is the LTE release or whatever term it is.
EUS.
Why not create a 7.1 .LTE release or like notate it somehow so that common person who doesn't have necessarily that background.
I mean, it's just the way the releases work, right? So admittedly, you're still switching repos to use EUS anyway. So yes, it could have been named 7.1 dot something, but it's really just called 7.1 EUS.
Well, I think, is it Ubuntu? It might be Ubuntu that does it, where they actually name their release LTE release.
Yeah.
And, like somebody
Yeah.
like me can look at that and go, oh, it's an LTE release. So they're
And I
backporting
think,
stuff.
you know what? I think we might be doing that with OpenStack. I could be wrong, but I think we're actually putting NLTS or the equivalent in the OpenStack release names.
Right.
I think. I'm not a stack person, but I just seem to remember seeing that.
Good.
But anyway. All right,
Let's
turn the whippersnappers back on. Man, and I sound like I'm about 90 tonight. Good
You're an
Lord.
old man.
My aunt Ag, who smoked
There's
3 packs a day.
Stuff in Linux that is updated pretty regularly for a variety of different security concerns.
So I think we've covered
Again,
this. Let me
a Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7 and leave that
skip
open.
ahead a little bit.
They had to present a certain version of Red Hat Enterprise Linux. It's not clear in the release.
VM, specific architectures and
This was all back in the day when
in some
Nate was
cases,
allowed to
specific
make fun of Red Hat and comment
hardware.
negatively. Nowadays, he has to be a yes man and say, yes, Red Hat has done the correct thing.
Like Dell has
Go
a
Red
bunch of
Hat.
PowerEdge stuff. HP has their
He doesn't
ProLine
have to.
series. And
If he wants to keep
IBM
his job.
has some System Z stuff based on specific processors. So it's sort of a little over the board.
That's me screaming at the cloud for Trooper.
Yes, right.
I'm just trying to
Old
read
man
over
yells
that
at
and see
cloud.
if it clarifies what exactly this means.
I love our
Just
listeners.
means
Yeah.
apparently that now that they have this certification, you can totally use it.
We're
in the
still talking
government
about this.
and
I've literally skipped ahead
Yep.
2 minutes, and we're still.
And on your Dell PowerEdge R530,
We wax poetic on
630, 730.
Yeah. So.
I think they were talking about platforms. I think the article
now
talked
that
about
Dell's
platforms it
PNP,
was
and then
certified
they don't
on, and
use it
we're
anymore, but
bantering about that.
Gotcha. By the
Had
way,
some,
the
some
model for
negative
this show
feedback,
tonight
so-
was Mr.
so have I.
Science Theater
Well, you
Freak
know.
Guy
What a coincidence.
with the robots yelling
Yep.
at the.
Yep. I totally should have come up with some kind of a theme for the live stream, or the three of us were like in the.
All right, so have we beaten the dirty cow to death?
We have. Let's
yeah.
move on.
Move on.
The only thing
I'm
left
gonna
was beef
hamburgers.
jerky.
Sure.
The next one's about
That's for-
Facebook, so tune
So
in.
it
some
looks like
jerky on the shelf back
Facebook
there.
is stirring the pot a little bit here.
A little bit. So Facebook getting into more things that you wouldn't expect Facebook to get into.
Of course.
So what we're talking about
You
here?
mean like balloons that provide internet access?
Yes, balloons. No.
Did they ever actually
this
do that?
particular story is about Facebook getting
I don't know.
into the switching hardware game, taking on the likes of Cisco.
Did
So
they
I
ever
know
do
that-
that?
This, I think, is a pretty cool project.
This
Google's
is a pretty cool
Loon
project. I've been hearing about this for a while.
running, but I don't know if
not
Facebook ever
specifically
did
for
that.
Facebook,
Yeah.
but in general.
Ever got off the ground.
So
Ah.
there's this notion of
Har, har,
low-cost
har.
switches, and the general idea here is that you separate the software and the hardware apart. So you come up with a common set of hardware for switches, routers, etc.
Don't they call this software-defined networking now?
Sell just the hardware, and then you allow
Nah,
Yep.
the end user.
I mean, it's
whoever
still
that may
white
be,
box
whichever
hardware.
OS they want
but
on
it's pretty
it.
common now.
Now,
So
Yeah.
we're talking about some fairly specific hardware here, so there's only a smattering of OSs available. But basically, you are allowing the end user to choose which switch operating system you're going to use versus being locked into buying a $30,000 switch from Cisco and only being able to use
Right.
Cisco iOS.
Has it put Cisco out of business yet?
So what are the operating systems?
no,
I'm
they just
thinking
keep
not.
buying
Or
new things
isn't
to
that
destroy.
correct?
Yeah, right.
It's not really clear here. And I can't remember the name of any of the couple that I've encountered. I've never actually used any of them at this point. I've never been in a position to
I
play
see
with a
we
white
were
box
just
switch.
as thorough about covering the news back then as we are
It's an
now.
interesting opportunity, but when you're dealing in most companies, they don't want to spend the money on something like that. So
Trooper,
this,
you're not wrong.
This switch they've come up
Yeah,
with,
right.
they're calling the Voyager.
Yeah.
It has
The Voyager didn't that get lost in the
12
Alpha
ports,
Quadrant?
or 12 downlink ports.
Delta
and what
Quadrant.
appears to be
Delta Quadrant. We're in the Alpha Quadrant. That's
We're
right,
in the Alpha Quadrant.
Yeah.
They're in the
That-
Delta
They
Quadrant.
said those in the article. That said those 4 ports were like 200 gigabit ports
right.
that they
So
were
this
using
has-
over fiber.
Yes, this has 12 QSFP ports and 4 200 gig DWDM line ports.
Now I wonder if I missed something.
so
What's Josh
it's
talking
it's
about with
pretty hefty
PSL in
device.
hand in the chat?
And Equinix did some testing. So Equinix is a data center provider, most notably for big areas like they're in New York, in downtown Manhattan, as well as in New Jersey. They're also in Chicago. They have data centers in Tokyo, London. I think they have them in Hong Kong. They're all over the place. Anyway, these guys do. These are the big data centers. So when you're talking tier 1 providers, you're talking big financial companies. They're usually in there with Equinix.
Jason,
so
were
they have a
you
lot
at
of
were
fiber.
you at that New York
And,
startup
Equinix
when we
a
did this show?
test Where they put, I guess, 2 of these end to end over.
Or were you
this
still
says
in between?
40 kilometers of production.
I would have
fiber,
been.
Yeah.
in Silicon Valley, and it had 0 packet loss, which is what a switch is supposed to do. So I'm not entirely certain. I mean, 0 packet loss could be a ping across the.
We sent one ping and
Right.
it made it to the other end.
Right,
0% loss.
Right. So I mean, the question here is: are we talking about 0% packet loss for an end-to-end ping, or are we talking 0% packet loss over a 200 gig load on those DWDM ports? It doesn't really say, conveniently. And so, interesting tech. We'll see where it goes. I'm sure Facebook will start using it. My understanding is that Facebook does a bunch of crazy data center stuff on the scale of Google.
It's funny. I'm listening, and I'm actually interested in what we had to say in this one because I'm curious if Facebook started doing that or not. I never heard another thing about this that I remember.
This is literally the first and the last time I'm hearing
Interesting
about
project.
this.
You're right. Maybe it never went anywhere.
I'd love to get one to play with, but I mean, I don't really need 12 QSFP ports with 200 gig DWDM line ports at the
Why
moment.
But
not?
it'd be awesome.
But it would be
You could
neat.
totally use that.
I mean, I'm talking like this would make a great Quake server.
Quake server.
Oh, right. I don't know if you need 200 gig to play Quake.
Man, my ping times
Yeah,
would be
but
awesome.
it couldn't hurt.
Couldn't hurt.
LPB, as it were.
So, it seems like, to me anyway, there's a trend of the big boys like Google and Facebook and whatnot doing exactly this. Building their own hardware, building their own software on top of it, and not just buying off-the-shelf products.
That Nate guy, he saw the
Well,
future.
Would you agree?
Turns out off-the-shelf products really expensive.
Absolutely.
Mostly because you're in a lot of cases you're paying for the name. You're not even paying for the software or the hardware. When it comes right down to it, and you actually look at the hardware costs of a Cisco or a Juniper, it's a lot less than what you pay. What you're actually paying out of your pocket.
That's what he meant by
So
PSL?
If a company like Facebook or Google, who needs arguably hundreds or thousands, well, let's say thousands, 10,000s of these, if they can come up with a common set of
All right.
hardware
Have we heard enough
and
about the
farm it
Facebook
out,
switches? Should I try to
thing.
find the next article?
built to their
Maybe.
specifications,
The next one is apparently
And
from
then
Hacker News,
build
and it's
the
about a
software itself
MySQL
if they
exploit,
have
so
the
this
brain
should be
trust
another
to it.
entertaining one.
and they can iterate
Right.
on it a much better product because just what they need. And I get you craziness over at 200 gig line speed, and plus on top of it,
You can
having
tell he's a
total
network
control over
engineer.
the software.
It's
Craziness.
not just cheaper. It's not just more available. It's custom access.
Two
Two of them. Two of them on
Exactly
top
two.
of the two that were released.
No matter what you're talking about, should be hidden behind many layers of security.
Yep, that's
Exploits
definitely sneakable.
you kind of need local. End of the day, two of them.
Two of them
This what
on
we
top
were-
of the two that
All right, let's-
that were released a month ago.
Oh, yes. Okay, we have to go back just a little
that
more.
sounds
MySQL. It's
we'll let this
custom
finish.
built based on their.
I'm trying to remember
workloads.
what the
right. Yep, they have
which
ultimate control over it.
exploit this was.
Yeah, that's why I want to hear the article.
All right, so
Here we
the
go.
Hacker News tells us there's yet another flaw in MySQL that gives attackers root access.
Two.
Two of them.
Two of them.
There. See, that's what the two was
Two
about.
of them on top of the what was it? Two that were released a month ago?
That's right. There was a string of MySQL exploits.
That sounds about right.
Wasn't there?
Yeah.
Look, at the end of the day, MySQL should be, or any SQL, any database,
Even
no
your
matter what you're
SQL?
talking about, should be hidden behind many layers of security. Yes.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
You will
at the same
expose
time, I was dealing with
the
somebody who
data
was trying to
from the
set up
SQL database through whatever
a
interfaces you
connection to
make.
Firebase
And
over
yes,
the open
security is
internet so they
important,
could do their thing.
but
And I just want to.
Oh my!
Some of these exploits are.
Sounds awesome.
You
What's wrong with
kinda
that?
need local access to them. And
You know.
I understood these. For both of them, you need.
Jason, we
local,
knew a DBA that would have been happy for
local
that. No more
account running
firewalls?
on the
Yeah.
MySQL server.
Well, so I mean, things
So
have
from
changed a
what I
little
read
bit,
from the article,
and there's a lot more of the database over
They
the internet
specifically
type
highlighted
stuff,
things
but
like
I'm still
the shared hosting
not of
environment.
the opinion that that's a thing that you should be doing.
You know, where users are granted access to.
Well, I think those are
MySQL so they can
different
manage their own
in that
databases.
they're not just a MySQL
Right,
server connected directly to
an
the
environment
internet.
that
They're like software as a
arguably
service style
in the
stuff.
Days of
Yeah,
But you're
AWS
right.
And Azure
It does
and
change it slightly
other
because
cloud
there's more
providers
protections in
should
place. Like
really
MySQL
be
was
going
never
away.
intended to be open
Yeah,
to the internet.
I can tell you that it is.
Right.
You know, and then you get to stuff like
really
Mongo,
should be going away.
which only
in the
has
shared
authentication
aspect. I
because
mean,
people
you
were
know,
complaining
you
that there
can
was no
still do
authentication.
VMs and run your own
Yeah.
Oh my!
on shared hardware, but you're no longer using a shared MySQL.
Authentication makes it slow, man.
Those days are long
Exactly.
gone.
Is Mongo
does.
even around anymore? I haven't heard a thing about
Oh, yeah,
Mongo.
yeah. Oh,
It-
Okay.
Mongo's-
It's no
No-
good.
no
to be sharing
SQL is
stuff
the
like that
thing.
anymore. It really
So
isn't.
what about cases like SQL injection through a web application?
That appears
about
to
them?
be part of what this is hinting at, but it's I'm not really sure. I think you'd need a pretty specific SQL injection to be able to take advantage of this. So
select remote
let's
exploit
see.
from
There's
database.
proof of concept
Yeah.
for both of them. One is a privilege escalation vulnerability, and the other one is a root privilege escalation.
So these were CVE 2016
full control over the
6662 and 6663
That
that we're
sounds
talking
awesome.
about.
Yep.
Because I'm really curious
So,
now what the hell we
hide your
were
kids, hide your database.
on about.
Let's see. Low privileged account with create, insert, select grants, and access to the affected database to escalate your privileges and execute arbitrary code.
There's
as
even a
the
video
database
in
is
here of
immutable.
someone doing it. I'm
For
looking at the Hacker News article. It still exists, by the way.
access to everything.
It
Oh
wasn't
my.
like removed or cleaned up
then
or something.
The next one allows you to use a MySQL system user to become root on the box, which will then further compromise the system.
Right.
I haven't
So that's
And this
root
is
outside
swipe
of
with SQL in a
MySQL.
container.
right. So I
Then
haven't
when they get
dug
root on the box,
completely into this.
whatever.
Right.
One
Well,
of
containers were a
the
thing in 2016, but they weren't nearly as
two
widespread as
with
they are now.
Symbolic links.
Well, so what's
which
fun is
generally
is
means you have to have an
I
account
haven't looked
on
at
the box to be able to
MySQL
take
in a
advantage
while,
of
but it runs as a user, so a root RCE
But
shouldn't
again,
be possible anymore.
most of these
because
flaws
if you exploit
rely
out of it,
on other
at best you can
simpler
become the
flaws that are
MySQL
in,
user.
in external
it-
code.
I'd have to look at
so-
the exploit again and see how you became root. in
OWASP
that
has been posting
Yeah,
this
but it
stuff
gives you then a
for years
foothold.
and years,
right.
And years
Yeah,
and years.
but you know,
you have to do
this
the
is,
basics.
you know, you're talking.
even
It's the
worry
difference
about,
between a script kiddie
root
and
privileges
somebody who
and
knows what they're
whatnot
doing.
in your
and
Yeah.
able
MySQL servers.
to string attacks
Worry
together.
about taking care of the SQL injection attacks that are in your everyday code. It's not hard to prevent it. You just have to do it.
Yeah.
Hey, guess what's still on the OWASP top 10?
What?
Yeah, SQL injections.
So
What?
let's
Why?
see.
That's
Next,
from like 10 years ago.
another
15 years
security
ago.
one, copying 48
Still
characters
works.
of code
Still works.
and upsetting people everywhere because it's another system D issue.
Yeah.
Which
Because
everybody
input
seems to be
validation
jumping
is
up and down about, and
hard.
I have yet to have a problem with, but maybe I'm just that good.
Listen, it's different, and we can't have different inside of our init system.
You know,
We're talking about System D.
some of the complaints about it, I will agree with.
It was just a fad. It'll never
system D
catch on.
So
Never.
I think we moved into the next article, though I didn't hear it because we were talking. It's from ThreatPost, and it says, hack crashes Linux distros in 48 characters of code. Who remembers this? I vaguely remember it.
Which one?
Yeah, right. Which one?
Is basically individual scripts, and any individual script could screw up and break just that system that it was tied to. Systemd is this big, arguably monolithic system.
Listen, you Systemd hater.
Any single breakage in Systemd can take down the entire thing. For instance, if you were to run Systemd by setting the notify socket,
I don't know that I never hated it.
News article.
I understand where the hatred comes from.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And because we
I also understand
why
people like
put together a blog post called "How to Crash Systemd" in
right?
one
Like
tweet.
it's one of those. It's that crazy balancing act, right? Like
now,
Init 5 was
pro tip,
wonderful.
If you have Systemd hooked up to Twitter,
write bash
you're an
scripts,
idiot. Find a new job.
Systemd can do a lot more.
But how else
There's
are you
a lot
supposed
more
to
to break.
control your Linux boxes?
I'm sorry, if Twitter can control your box through Systemd because of a tweet, you've got bigger issues. At any rate,
What
That's
guy
right.
said.
The article said something about you could fit this in a tweet, and yeah, it's like, well, why? Why does that matter?
You just have there's a certain crowd that does not like Systemd for one reason or another. They
Were
have
tweets still 140 characters?
perfectly valid reasons to not like it.
I don't remember.
I agree with some of them.
Yeah.
I don't remember when it
Problem that
switched,
I
but
see
it
is
could have
that
been.
Their usual answer to it is, let's go back to System V.
Right.
And
So I
that-
mean, this
or
is the same deal with any polarized argument, right?
Yes, I don't like your
You know,
thing. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I don't like what you're saying, so I'm gonna find any little
October of
nitpicky thing that's
2018
wrong
when
with
they
it,
announced
and
the
I'm gonna
Dublin.
just
So, yeah.
exploit it until
So this was still 140.
you
Okay.
look bad.
Yep.
Right. And again,
So we
there
were
are
in the
valid
dark
reasons not
ages,
to like
folks.
it.
Twitter was still 148,
and I don't
140
think that
characters.
Every single little piece of the system should be hooked up to it. They're talking about one of the complaints that he made, I believe, was in that blog post.
Wait, it says it was end
about
of 2017.
The
But I still think we were
Systemd
140
DNS
characters.
service, Systemd Resolver, resolved something like that. I forget what it's called.
Yeah.
Which I looked at briefly. I thought it was a kind of an interesting idea that the whole thing is all tied together. But the whole thing is all tied together, which may not be a great idea. So, he's right. It's a new resolver. New resolvers always have problems. Resolvers are kind of a really important part of most systems. So tying it all together in here, especially when there's really not much of a reason to do so, is it sounds like they're trying to tie everything into Systemd just because they can. More of
Just
hey,
because
look,
they
we can stick
can.
everything in here. Watch.
Listen, Jason.
Yeah, sure you can.
Jason of 4 years
Doesn't make
ago.
sense to do it.
Young Jason.
So
Systemd does have some interesting features, though.
See, look at me defending
I've been on a
Systemd.
talk, I believe it was in 2013
Yeah, it was like
at Summit.
I've been working on that. I must drink it.
And they were talking about some. Trying to remember the exact context here. It had something to do with when you'd started up a service.
I remember this talk, too. It was at
things
Summit.
like open up the ports required for that service, and do things on demand like that, which sounded pretty convenient, and pretty nice. But
Leonard
Systemd has a
probably
better
gave it.
the old way wasn't so bad anyway,
Nate,
right?
I could do
like
that
a
with a
dependency
script. Why do I
situation.
need to have Systemd?
And here's where I just
Yeah,
concede
okay,
to
good
Jason.
argument.
Yep.
Well, I mean, the counter argument that I would have is that Systemd does it in a config file, and it's all
Right.
standardized as opposed to a script that you have to write each time. But I mean, there's always pros and cons to every system, so it's worth looking into. A lot of OSs or a lot of distributions.
I concede your
have,
defeat, and I
made it
give
a
you
moot
back
point.
a way of saving face.
Red Hat has moved to Systemd. Too bad.
Yeah, that's all
I
there is to it.
believe-
Sorry.
I think Ubuntu uses Systemd as well. Maybe Debian.
I believe Ubuntu does, Debian does. In fact, that was where the big stir-up was.
Yeah, they split Debian because of that, didn't
had
they?
switched to
Somebody
Systemd
forked Debian.
so that
Yeah.
some of the,
I agree.
JSTAR just
some
threw
of the
that in
old
chat,
Systemd
actually.
supporters actually just
Dev1,
forked
that's
Debian
right.
And started their own distro.
And this is how we
what's
split
one more
distros, and we
Linux
have
distro?
even more Linux
Yeah,
distros
exactly.
to choose from.
Yeah, I think
So many.
Yeah, because now we have a distro that's just like the other distro, except it's not using Systemd.
And I'm not even positive of this.
Yeah,
Is Raspbian.
It's got all the modern stuff. Well, what'll happen
trying
is
to
Dev1
remember.
will eventually
Raspbian does.
like
Does it now? Hey,
collapse under
everybody
its
has
own weight.
Systemd
They're
over.
gonna have to undo all
Raspy
the
and Jesse
stuff that
started
all
using System
all
D.
of the packages are
Alright,
doing
well,
these days.
It is so weird
Folks,
listening to
over.
you talk at the
System D
same time.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Alan 4 years ago.
When System D is on your Raspberry Pi, then that's the end, right?
Right. Now, when System D starts using XML config files, I will be more than happy to stand on that picket line.
What if we want to write it in JSON?
What if we want to write it in YAML?
I'm good with YAML. You can actually read it.
Yeah, but if you're off by a couple spaces,
Probably
it
just
totally
add
screws
it
the
up.
whole thing up.
Yeah, or if
That
it's
was my
tabs
point.
and not spaces, and you don't realize it.
Yeah, right,
Well, it made me
right.
think, though.
Fucking YAML.
Okay.
Someone doesn't like YAML.
So
Let's move all the stuff to Amazon, right?
I'm a
Yeah.
tab. I'm
Oh,
a tab
hey.
guy.
Turns out
You're a
there's
tab
an easy
guy.
way to do it. How's that
That's
for a segue?
awesome.
So I just heard about this one today, actually.
Some
It's
kind of a
old,
cloud
about
migration
a week
tool, if I
old.
remember.
So Amazon has this new thing called the Server Migration Service. So for all of you people that still run servers in a data center,
Get with the times, right?
right, exactly.
Let's
So,
see how
let's
4 year ago
see.
me hated the
Let's see,
cloud.
Right from the article, 4 companies that rely on Windows or Linux computer servers running in their own data centers. The Server Migration Server will theoretically, it's a good keyword there, make it easier to move them to AWS servers. And they've done this just after, I guess AWS and VMware just did a thing where they can run VMware's data center software on AWS.
Yeah, I heard about this a week or two ago. Basically, you can now run your vCenter on top of AWS, which seems like a very odd
But don't
combination.
vCenter, I mean, I'm not a VMware guy. I use VMware because I have to. It's unfortunate. vCenter controls a bunch of VMware ESX servers, if I
vSphere,
understand
is that the word
correctly.
I'm looking for?
vSphere?
Yeah.
Still not a
vSphere
VMware
one
guy.
Controls everything?
I don't know.
remember. Anyway,
I think vSphere
it
is what
seems
they were
like
saying you
putting
can run on
vCenter
AWS.
in Amazon to run things that are outside of Amazon is goofy. Or are we running the VMware servers in Amazon now too? I'm confused.
No, the VMware Center, the VMware servers, the hypervisors themselves are somehow running within AWS.
Oh, this! I
I don't
remember
know if
this
they're
now.
Virtual hypervisors? That doesn't make any sense.
So
This
you're
was
running
Amazon's
a
initiative to bring
hypervisor
all
on
your
top of
VMware
a
into their cloud.
hypervisor.
I remember
mean,
it now.
I guess you could.
So what I pictured
Another
when,
one of
when I
those,
heard
did it
this
happen?
was
I don't
actually that
remember.
there's some
It was
subset
a
of
product for
hardware
quite a while.
running
It may
in
still
Amazon's
be.
data centers that are actually running VMware's ESX servers.
A certain director that you and I both remember
Okay.
brought it up
Hey,
a couple
you know,
years before I left the college.
May he die in a fire.
More power to
So
them.
really what it comes down to is a colo.
Right. So hypervisors all the way down.
Damn!
Okay. You know what? If that's what they want to do,
What?
that's great.
What I'm gonna do is
Amazon's AWS
recording.
stuff works great. It's
Do you
all,
need some more scotch?
Red Hat Linux underneath.
Actually,
Running.
I am kind of empty.
AVM,
You
I
do
think.
need.
And it's brilliant, and it works great, and it's wonderful, and it's still the cloud, but you know it works.
Trooper Ish says,
So I guess
"Wowzer, is
the-
that
the-
dude
the
also
point
a
of this
space
article was
user?"
that, hey, we have this awesome migration tool now.
Yes,
it makes it
yes,
really
that's why we
easy to
don't like
move
him.
to Amazon AWS. But the article does make it a point to say that it may not be so easy to get back.
Well, no, I mean it's like moving all your email to Gmail.
Yeah, right.
If
You
need
can
to
totally
move-
get your
well,
email back out of
you know,
Gmail
I've
move to
been there.
Google.
with IMAP
I-
Sync.
I've been there.
I've done it as well.
No, my
It's
current
possible,
plan is
but
Gmail is moving all of my
The
mail
button
to
that you can press
anything
to
I
have
send from my
Gmail
mail server ends
import
up in
everything
spam into Gmail.
Right.
doesn't
Well, that's because
exist
you're a
yet.
spammer. You're not a Gmail user. You must be a spammer. Anyone who runs their
Not
own
all
mail
these
server
days,
is
IMAP
obviously sending spam.
IMAP sync,
I
IMAP
completely
sync
agree.
any.
So I deserve to be there.
You deserve to be spammed. Sorry, I
And-
paused it because we were getting a little too confusing with you and I talking 4 years ago and you and I talking now. All right.
Time travel's rough.
Mark's tuned out over there. I can tell it. He's like, I
I'm
lost
fine.
it. I lost it at the die in a fire comment.
Only if
No,
you know
I'm
everybody's email address or
Yes, I'm a
everybody's
horrible
password.
person.
Yeah, well, it was only like a handful of accounts on my own domain.
The problem is, I think Marc knows who we're talking about.
Multi-thousands of accounts, that'd be a problem.
Right. So if perhaps you were, I don't know, some large corporation or a college, and you had thousands of people, and you put them on Gmail, and then found out that Gmail sucks because of the variety of reasons, and you wanted to get off of it, life becomes difficult. You know what? Even for like a dozen and a half users, when you don't know the passwords and you can't know the passwords, it's still difficult to move things. Then it becomes a wonderful help desk nightmare. But it's possible, but it's just not fun. So anyway, so that pretty much covers all the news stories that we had for this particular podcast. And
yeah, so we're coming up on 30 minutes already. So do we want to call it quits, or?
Oh, you had a pressing question though, so we can cover that before we split.
Yeah, that should take less.
Crap! It's my fault.
Minutes,
it's your fault.
What's your question, Nate? I know it's an important
So I wouldn't call it a question, and to be honest, I think I already know your answer to this anyway if it were posed as a question. But then again, you are a tenant of the cloud in your new position, aren't you?
I'm hybrid.
So you were at the startup then?
Hybrid, huh?
I'm
hybrid. I was
hybrid. We're hybrid.
Yes,
early.
I mean,
Relatively
depends
early.
on what. Yes, we use a variety of services that are considered cloud services, and then we also have data centers. So it's kind of a little bit of both.
It was Jason all along. It's like at the end of the movie when there's that plot twist.
What I'm getting at.
Question is moving to the cloud.
So the listeners aren't lost.
The whole time they were dead.
Talking about the cloud and asking you if you're using the cloud or not. So
I see zombie processes. They're everywhere.
Is it okay to simply outsource all of your data that you may or may not already have in-house to a cloud provider?
And the simple
I'm talking
answer is,
email, I'm talking about file shares, all of that.
The simple answer is yes. Of course it is. Google already knows everything, and they already have all of your data. So as a matter of fact, you can just turn your stuff off. Google already has it. You don't have to migrate anything.
We picked a nice, easy topic for the first show, didn't we?
That makes it so easy.
So moving to the cloud. What are the pros? What are the cons? What are the risks? There's a lot of calculations. So I am, and I think you are as well, fairly old school. I like data centers. I like the challenge of running data centers. I enjoy the hardware. There's a lot to be said about having a big chunk of metal sitting there that you control from top to bottom. There's also a lot of headaches associated with controlling that hardware from top to bottom. Everything from, gee, why did the power go out, to, wow.
I remember the first hypervisor that I got to put together that had 128 gig of memory. I remember looking at all the sticks of memory, like,
why is there
look at all of that memory. Now you can get like a laptop with that much in it.
When you move to a cloud service, some of that disappears. Turns out, even if you wanted to, you can't control the hardware.
Absolutely.
It's not yours. You don't have to worry about it. Disk goes bad, that's their problem. Server catches on fire, their problem. Except that it's not always their problem.
Hate when servers catch on fire.
Yeah,
to the
right?
cloud,
Why is that always the go-to example? It's on
while
fire!
you get rid
Ah!
of some of the headaches of dealing with hardware, and some of the headaches of dealing with other administrative tasks, there's other challenges you have to take on. For instance, high availability. Does your particular cloud provider, and I'm using cloud in a very broad sense here. So we could be talking everything from I've outsourced my to-do list to a cloud provider like Google or Asana or any of the billions of people that do to-do lists.
Oh, wow.
To
Forgot
something
we used
on
that
a
back in
scale
the day.
of an entire data center, moving to AWS or Azure or whatever that new one Oracle has that's totally going to destroy Amazon.
So
And
the term cloud is sort of amorphous, is kind of what you're getting at.
I think Oracle still has a cloud.
What I was referring to was
I pity anyone that uses it, though.
software as a service. So,
right.
Google Docs, Office 365, Google Notes is what, or Google Keep is what you were sort of referring to there with your task lists.
Right. So
I still
here's
use that.
my
That's
general
a service
take on
Google
it.
hasn't killed yet.
Any
Well,
data that you
screwed yourself there.
Yeah,
don't
there's still
consider,
time. 2020's not over yet.
very, very sensitive. So
Hey, but you're gonna pay for
anything
photos
short
soon.
of
Yes,
security
I saw
numbers,
that.
personal
That's kind of
information, etc.
aggravating.
Moving to a cloud provider, not really a big deal.
The
As
usual
long as
Google
it's not
bait
gonna
and
destroy your
switch.
business if it gets out, not a big problem. When you start dealing with more sensitive information, you have to start looking very, very closely at the cloud provider. Some cloud providers have no real security policies with respect to your data. Google, for instance, doesn't care at all.
It's
if you use
funny,
Drive,
right?
there's really no
And they still don't.
coverage at all for anything sensitive. Yeah, they make all these claims, but I can tell you from experience that there was a lot of stuff that was showing up in our Google Drive that was supposedly shared outside that doesn't show up properly, and you have to do all sorts of crazy things to figure it out.
That's still annoys
Then
the
you can
hell
move
out of
to
me.
the other side to something like Box or Dropbox to some degree.
I gotta say,
and
this
there's
is one of
others
the things
that actually have
that I both
specific
miss and
tiers of
love
service
not having to
for
deal with
different
now that
types of
I am
data.
not the administrator of
So
all of the
Box
data
actually
and
has
all of the
Right.
services,
tier
right? It's just
for
like,
financial data.
whatever, Red Hat's got my back, I
We
think.
actually have a tier for when you deal with higher enterprise stuff. We're doing encryption and other things
trust
on
fall
that
without
data
ever
to
looking to
keep
see
it
if there's
separate from
anybody to
everybody
trust.
else's.
Yeah, well, I
And
mean,
then you can go completely crazy and
we've
go
got that
super
culture where
proud
I
of
could
something
probably
like
do something
SpiderOak.
about it, but I honestly just,
SpiderOak is
I'm too
really
tired to
interesting
care.
because they're a zero knowledge provider. So basically, everything is encrypted, including the directory listings. So
What
SpiderOak
service are you
can't
talking
even
about?
tell- they have this
SpiderOak.
blob
I
of
ended up on
SpiderOak,
data,
yeah.
SpiderOak.
they
That's
can't
who I
even
use for
tell
my
you what
backups
the
now.
directory structure is for the
Yep.
data that they have. You have all the keys. Of course, if you lose those keys, you lose all your data. So
Yeah, all your
there's,
data's
you know,
gone. Yeah.
right. But,
It's
I mean,
it's
that's
like CryptoLocker without the malware.
right. So that's generally
CryptoLocker
when you're
without the
dealing with encryption,
malware.
if you lose the key, you lose the data. So there's again pros and cons. We
Crypto
have
malware
used the
without
cloud
the guy
for a
to
bunch of things
pay the
because
Bitcoin
when
to
it
get your
comes
key
to
back.
especially storing files, you really can't beat the price per gigabyte for a cloud provider. A lot of them are basically unlimited storage, and you get charged a flat fee per user. So for $100 or $200 a month for a couple dozen users, you've got unlimited storage and all the bells and whistles of with sync clients and everything else, and it works out pretty well. And you don't have to worry about drives going bad and everything else. The flip side of that is you have to look really close at what their backup strategy is, whether or not they're responsible for lost data due to hardware failures on their end. Trying to determine what their security is really, really tough.
Absolutely. I've actually been looking down this road myself, and it's been sort of like staring into a murky pit.
This was
Right.
the beginning
So,
of the end, by
for
the
the
way.
most part, you can go to them and say, "Are you
Yeah.
secure?"
Yeah, for
And
well, for my previous role, I'll say
I
that.
don't know any provider
This is when we
ever gonna
started
turn
looking
around
at
and say,
cloud
"Nope."
providers. It's when I started to
not at
get
all.
discontent with how the
We don't
direction
secure
of where
absolutely.
things were going.
Yeah, of course we're secure. We're totally
Cloud
secure.
all the things.
Now,
About all the things.
they may think so.
Even
They
if
may
you
be
have a
secure for certain types
perfectly
of data,
valid local setup.
but the only way to really know is to test. And even then, testing is difficult because even if you point all the testing tools in the world at them, there's no, I mean, it's a black box environment. You can't really do the in-depth testing that you can do with something that you've built yourself.
Right.
Of course, the attackers can't do that either. So, but they have all the time in the world to attack, and you only have limited time to check things out.
Freaking attackers. They get
So
all the
there's
glory.
your current role. You've been sort of in the cloud since day one, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
So there wasn't really any point where you were migrating, in data that you're holding yourself to data that's now in the cloud.
No, but I've migrated between a couple cloud providers already.
That sounds fun. How did that go?
All right, Jason. So which one of us had a server whirring in the background? Was it you or me? I can hear it in the background on this episode that we're playing. I can hear a server fan.
I don't remember where you were recording, but I doubt you did. I mean, my server's here. I've moved it since, so maybe it was me.
I was recording in my office up in the attic at the time, which might have had an air conditioner. No, this was November. It wouldn't have had the air conditioner. I hear it. Maybe no one else hears it because I'm the one with the earphones and it's right here local in the mixer. But I can hear a whirring of a server fan in the background.
So 4 years ago, I don't think I was I wasn't in this house, so it would have been somewhere else, and I didn't have that server. So I'm guessing it was you. I blame you.
Must have been me. No, you were in that house. You've been in that house since we started the show.
Have I?
I think.
4 years? That's hard. That's
hard to believe.
It's hard to believe.
Maybe I'm wrong. I thought you were there. Anyway, let's get back to it.
I don't remember.
There it is. I hear it.
So
2020. That was like 100 years
on the
ago.
cloud provider.
2016.
years.
2016 was 1,000 years ago.
Right, but some of the stuff that we've done. So Office 365, for instance, has this wonderfully horrible drive system they call OneDrive.
It's wonderfully horrible.
Oh my God, it's so they bought this thing called SkyDrive from somewhere.
Yeah.
And they brought it internally and they started using it. And
SkyDrive? I don't remember this conversation.
Itself, from what I
SkyDrive
remember,
became OneDrive, and now it's SharePoint.
Okay.
I mean, it's still
But
Oh,
used it as an
okay.
SharePoint.
But
Pretty much
Marc
any
had
cloud
SharePoint
drive
back in like
system as an
late
individual
2000s.
usually works pretty well. You put files on it.
So
you
it was
take
just
files off of
absorbed
it,
into
sometimes you can
SharePoint?
share them,
No,
whatever.
well, so
It's
what happened
really
is
cut and dry.
SkyDrive was back in the day,
You're
and
dealing with
Microsoft
Back in the day.
company
Microsoft needed a
or
cloud
enterprise
drive
or whatever
thing
word you want to use
box
To
for it.
compete with Google and yeah.
So they bought
Sharing
SkyDrive.
files between people
So
is
then they named it
really, really
OneDrive,
important.
and then more recently, in
especially
the
when you
past,
want to share files and you
3
want to
years or
synchronize them
so,
to your local machine.
they've
for
redone
a
the back
variety of
end of
reasons.
OneDrive, so it's
Now,
no
if you're going
longer
to sync
separate.
files to your
It's actually
machine, then
part of
please,
SharePoint
dear God,
now.
encrypt
I was
your
going to say,
machine.
they still have OneDrive
Uh,
because my kids use it
yeah,
for
yeah.
their schooling.
Sync the
Yeah,
files.
but the
can't do
the
that
actual
with
file storage
OneDrive
and everything is
unless
part of
you are the
SharePoint now.
primary
Oh.
owner of
So
the
it got
file.
rolled into
Slightly
SharePoint.
Anything
better,
shared
but
with
it's
you
got major
can't sync.
issues. I mean, from my
Oh,
perspective.
And it doesn't
Um,
show up in your main screen. It shows
I
up
don't know,
in
it's
a
weird. The
totally
same
separate
stuff I was
screen
talking about
called
here is
share
still
files.
happens.
Oh, and there's a billion limitations on what you can do with
What were you
those
talking
files.
about here?
So it just got worse and worse and worse. So then we thought about looking at SharePoint.
So when you want to
was,
sync files, you can only sync
touted
the
as
files that
the
you put into the drive. You
enterprise,
can't shared
um,
files.
Okay.
system that they use
I
for
mean,
files and everything else.
I haven't
and
played
it's
with it
even
lately.
worse.
Maybe they finally fixed
They
that.
built,
but
or they
it
took
was
the existing
kind of
SharePoint
horrible.
system,
And
which
shared files would show up
a
under a
couple years
different
ago, I mean,
folder
was still
structure,
kinda horrible,
so
but
even
actually
finding it was a pain in the
worked
ass.
okay, I guess. And they put it on top
Google does
of
something similar,
OneDrive.
Yeah.
sort of.
And
Maybe.
it
I don't know.
actually has
The only
less
Google
functionality
Drive that I
than
sync is my personal one, and that's all mine anyway. So
You
you know,
can't
I don't have to
sync
worry about what's
anything.
shared with me.
And
That seems like a step backwards.
I have my own
it-
file server, so I just sync
Microsoft
on my
has
own.
Yeah,
this-
I'm slowly moving back in that direction. You know, I used to run Nextcloud, and then I got tired of running services in my basement, and I moved it to Google Drive. And now I have Nextcloud running again for photo
now,
management, and I
they
think I
will
might
beat
be
their head
moving.
against that
I'm
technology
slowly
for the next
moving
few years.
files back to
Eventually, they'll come out with
Nextcloud.
something that's decent. But
I ended up
I,
picking up a
you know,
NAS.
I needed it to work today.
Yeah.
We moved off of that too.
And that's worked out
Moving
really well.
between them,
So.
we used a
That's what I really need is a NAS. I don't have one yet.
Another cloud provider software called Cloudsphere.
Cloudsphere.
Transfer, but Cloudsphere.
Yeah,
This is so
transferring into
common that
cloud
there is an app
providers.
called Cloudsphere.
I don't know if
This
it
is
still
funny.
exists.
Very
Oh, well.
ironic.
I thought it was funny then
Yeah,
too. Look
yep,
at that.
Yep. It's actually a cloud service. And what you do
It's a
is
cloud service. They're
Yep.
moving from cloud to cloud.
yeah, you sign
Cloudsphere.
in on one cloud service, and you sign in on the other cloud service, and you say suck the data out of here and put the data over there, and it does it. And it's actually works pretty well.
And yes, Josh,
as
Synology
you
is the
can
thing I'm
imagine,
looking at.
in
I
order to
just
do this, it
don't
has
have
to
the money
download
for
all
it
the
yet.
data to their
One thing at a
servers
time.
and then upload it to a new service.
The new models are really nice.
So there's, you
I
got
bought
to do some
mine,
background checking on
and they
them
came out
and
with
make
these
sure
new
that,
models
you know,
that are even better.
I did a little bit
Bastards.
digging. You know, there's promises about when they're going to delete their data on their end, etc. But that's about it. I mean, short of downloading all of
I
the
priced
data
out a
from one
recent
machine,
model and 4 drives, and it
and
was
then
like
uploading
almost
to
a
the
grand. I
new
just
system,
can't justify that yet.
which would have taken forever. This
Right.
is pretty much the quickest way to do it. And
That's
the
what
most
credit cards are
efficient.
for.
So,
Yeah, no thanks.
definitely give
Been
them a
there.
thumbs up. They work pretty well.
Cut them all
I
to
was
pieces.
That said, test the services first thoroughly. Don't jump into a service, no matter what you're being told or pushed to do. Just
In fact, I don't know that any viewer
Curious,
cares
that's
about
not
this,
a
but I
disease
think
sign or something.
my last
Moving
credit
between
card is
services
currently
is
under $1,000.
really
It'll
a
be
pain.
paid off in like 2 months, maybe a month.
Nice.
Find the home you want before you move in.
Then I got a bunch of
Yeah,
loans to
pretty
work
much.
through, but at least the
It's
credit cards
better
are gone.
to take the extra time and slow things down. And
Yeah, it takes a long time to
really
get rid of
do
that stuff.
thorough
Yes, it
tests
does.
before you move in.
Yes, it does.
Turn 18, you start getting that
Because
stuff.
once you
You're like,
move in,
woohoo,
you
I got
gotta deal
money.
with
And then by the
all
time you're like,
crap that's there.
I don't know, 30,
And,
you're like, oh crap.
Oh crap! What did I do?
Times you gotta
And then around
replace all the
40, you're
toilet
like,
I can't.
realized-
I can't fix it now.
Or maybe your neighbors are really
Oh crap! I better fix this.
Well, we don't
the
talk
stages
about
of
them
debt, right?
nice.
See, 4 years ago, me agreed.
So,
Whatever I was laughing at.
yes, moving to the cloud is okay in certain circumstances. Just be careful. Be aware of what you're putting where.
See,
and
Jason
be
signed off on
sensitive
it.
to
Moving to the cloud's okay. You ruined my
Um,
career. Actually,
Here's
no.
some
You set me
really
up to
good
get out of there and
intelligence
move to
on
Red Hat, so
your
thank you.
cloud provider of choice. Run a lot of tests.
I can take credit for that?
And,
Okay, sure.
Sure,
yeah.
why not?
It can be okay. It's not a horrible thing. It's still there's just you miss that the amount of control that is taken out of your hands is both good and bad. Now, when something breaks, you can sit back and go, it's weird. I can't do anything about it. We just got to wait for them. And,
Yeah.
you
I've
know.
never been good at being somebody else's client.
I
It's
seem
a
to have
different
gotten over
type
that.
of stress. It doesn't
Yeah.
prevent people from coming to you and saying, "How come it isn't working yet?"
You just gave up, huh?
Right,
just
but
gives
now
you
you
a-
can't do anything about it.
Yeah, you just give the answer.
I gotta say, I love
we have
being
to
able to
wait,
do it as a hobby now.
It gives you a patsy.
It was a hobby
Right,
to start
exactly.
with.
So
it became a
if
career.
perhaps, I don't know.
All the experience I got
something
from that
weird would
career
happen,
has
like,
become
I
a
don't know, the
essentially
entire
different
East Coast
career.
of the internet would disappear for
And I
some
can do it
reason.
as a hobby again.
When would that happen?
I don't know. But
Yeah,
if it happens,
How could
if-
that possibly
I
happen?
know it's the internet. It's resilient. But it science fiction, baby.
If you want to
If it
speak, go
happens.
ahead, Mark.
Science fiction.
I can turn this down
Yeah.
a little bit.
And you sat there.
No,
and
I
nothing-
want to say
you
that
sit back
I,
and say,
I
don't
haven't
know,
been an
it'll
honest to
be back when
goodness
it's back.
sysadmin for
I-
5
there's
years
nothing
now,
you can do.
and
Um,
I'd like to say I
so
miss it, but I really
it turns
don't.
into hacking on a keyboard, trying to figure out what the problem is. And fix the
Instead,
problem,
as a
to
TAM,
picking up the
I'm more
phone,
like
I
a
guess, every
sysadmin for sysadmins,
time
giving them
somebody comes and
advice.
complains
But
Right.
and saying,
I'm
"Yeah,
not the
is
guy
it fixed
being
yet?
paged
No?
at
When's it gonna be? Oh, you don't
up
know?
yours in the
All right, I'll let
morning,
them know."
you know?
And you just go back and say,
It's like having kids.
fix
You
it.
have the kids, and you're like,
Or
oh,
like-
this is great. And after a while, you're like, oh, this is horrible. and then you
So,
realize when you're
several
when
years
you when you're
ago,
older later, and you
um,
watch somebody else's kid, you're like, this is awesome. I get to give them
I'm into the
I get to give them
GPU,
back at the
as
end
you
of the
I
know.
day.
can put it back and bring it back to
Yeah.
their parents.
There was a
I get my
forum I was a
sysadmin in
member
during
of,
the
and there
day,
was this guy on the
He
forum.
gets to deal with it the rest of
who
the time.
would-
Yeah.
He'd build these like crazily built Jeeps and rock buggies, and
Of course,
he'd
I'm talking
build it
about
up,
Jeeps
he'd
on the
wheel
first
it for
episode.
half a year, and then he'd sell it and start
Of
building another
course.
one, and he'd do it over and over and over again.
I even remember who I'm talking about.
And one day he's on the forums and he's talking about like how he keeps doing this, and he's like, I just enjoy building things. I'm a builder. I'm not a user, right? That's me in the systems world. I like to build stuff. I like to use it for long enough that I see some usefulness out of it. Then I like to build something else. And it feels like the
Just find a
cloud
company that doesn't have proper
or cloud
monitoring and alerting, and you can
services
sleep
sort of
all night
take
long.
that away from
There's
guys.
sage advice.
That's one of the things I'm really afraid of.
Kind of
Yeah.
is.
"Well, you're not a sysadmin. You want to be a consultant."
Yeah, right. I guess that's what it comes down
Apparently,
to.
I wanted to be a TAM. I just didn't know it yet.
I don't know
You
if I can live a
figured this
consultant
out
life.
4 years
I think-
ago.
I think
Yeah,
it's
we
well path
figured it
forward
out then.
For what you want to do. It's maybe you.
Of course, I don't get to build so much as a TAM. I just get to give advice on how they should build it, and then just kind of step back and wait for the fireworks and help them fix it.
The full-blown.
That's probably a bad way
cloud
to
automation
describe the
stuff.
TAM role.
So
I
building
take that
crazy
back.
Amazon,
It's not
AWS,
awful.
auto sizing cluster stuff for whatever they're coming up with. That's possible, and turns out kind of fun. or you go down the path of something like Docker.
What I really want to do is build a nice hybrid infrastructure as a service. I think that'd be an awesome project to undertake. You know, something that leverages something like OpenStack and then AWS on the cloud side.
That can be done. I've been assured that all that stuff is going away, that everything is being replaced with Docker. No, wait, being replaced with Lambdas. So Lambdas is the big new thing.
Lambda all the thing.
I haven't even heard that one yet.
You were talking about Lambda way back 4 years ago.
We've gone from straight up, iron, big iron where we put a piece of software on it. We've gone to virtual machines where we take a piece of big iron, we put a hypervisor on it.
By the way, Marc, Marc with a K is in our Facebook stream. He says he misses your singing tonight.
We've gotten rid of VM.
I can't sing.
I know. He says it's a shame. He says he misses it.
I could aggressively hum, maybe.
There you go.
Is that why I see more comments in the stream, and I'm trying to figure out where they came from? They're coming from Facebook?
No, I can see them all, and when I respond to each one that you guys can't see, I respond on the stream that they came in on. So you shouldn't have seen the responses to those.
No,
I've got.
Oh, you'll see them in the
one open, and I've got Twitch.
Yeah.
But I can't read the friggin' stream. You kidding me? I'm old.
Yeah.
I'm sure it has really good uses. The industry that I'm in.
He's demanding you sing.
Use for Lambdas at the moment. Lambdas are for very specific tasks that have to run thousands of times. So you take that one task, make it a piece of code, and then that code gets stuck in a container that's specifically designed to run that.
I still haven't used Lambdas in any meaningful way.
Lambdas are covering everything now. I mean, I've seen Java, I've seen Node, Python, Ruby, you name it, they've got it, and it just sits there and runs that Lambda code.
This was a big conversation at the college before, like right as I was leaving, they were talking about using Lambda for certain things.
Seems to be a big thing right now.
One of the web developers was all about
it's fun.
defining Lambda functions and using them for this and that. I don't remember the specifics anymore.
Containers are obsolete.
Containers
are now legacy.
Containers are legacy.
We're working our way through them, and we'll see what happens.
Lambdas can't have.
Yeah, so maybe we'll cover containers a little more in depth in a future episode. But for now, I think we're going to have to try to tie this up. We're coming up on an hour.
For a Lambda to spin up because
guys say we just
in the background it's going to spin up that container to run the code.
Just yeah, it's good idea.
It sounds like you guys are about to stop talking.
All right, so that's episode 1.
There's a minute left.
Hey, we did it.
Not even a minute.
All the complaints to Nate.
So the next 4 years of Iron Sysadmin is going to be us listening to the previous 4 years.
Yeah, we're out of content, guys. This is going to be it. So next week, we're listening to episode 2.
Either of us.
Then we're going to start over for the next 8 years. We're going to listen to the previous 8 years.
Yeah, it's just going to be meta from here on.
Are we going to listen? We're going to listen to so on the 8th anniversary, we're going to listen to this episode that was listening to the first anniversary.
Yes,
we should do that.
Comment on us commenting on this episode.
If anybody wants to hear that, let us know.
Inception.
So now whenever I tell someone don't listen to the first episode, I guess I've been lying because I just played it for all of you. All right, that was I don't know. I don't think it was as bad as I remember. I'm maybe you've never noticed this, but I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, right? When things don't work exactly as I picture them in my head, it bothers the hell out of me, and I need to try to improve and improve. That's why we went to a mixer, and why we have a new mixer, and why I got a new mic, and like all this stuff. And I mean, it's not what I preach to people. When I tell people how to start a podcast, I tell them start with what you got, and that's exactly what we did. But I guess I'm a little bit of a hypocrite in that respect. But that first episode, Jason, you really did sound bad. I'm sorry, but
damn.
But that improved pretty quickly.
Darn.
You and your digitized Bluetooth headset that you had.
I don't. for all the complaining, I don't like listening to myself to begin with. It didn't sound digitized at all to me. It sounded a little muffled, and that was about it. But that's what I would expect.
I hear it. It's me. Again, perfectionist me. It's me. I noticed it. Some of the listeners noticed it. Because remember, we did get feedback in the beginning about that. And that was one of the few negative pieces of feedback we ever received until Marc joined.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, Marc.
Whatever. Go to hell with your 2-star review.
Yes, that guy. Forget him.
Whatever. I'm over it.
Yeah, ever since Elsa joined, we don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah, right. We sound great, right? Compared
the
to
jerk never bothered me anyway. No.
All right, folks. Well, I don't have anything in queue, anything else for our 4-year celebration, except
Get off my ship.
I have finished my second beer. I probably should have had a third, but since we didn't take a break, I couldn't go get one.
My Glenfiddich was wonderful.
Well, that's good. Josh with his pumpkin spice latte.
I just had ice water because I've had too many calories today because I've been misbehaving lately.
That's a shame.
It's
a celebration.
I went a little nuts around my birthday and Halloween, and
happy birthday.
I'm like, all right, I got to be good. Well, it was October 20th, so it's been a bit, but thank you.
Close enough. I mean, this is the first show since then, right?
So my goal is to not lose control and say screw it, it's the holiday season, and then I'm back in the 240s. No, I don't want that to happen.
So Mark K through Facebook asks, "What are you drinking?" I was drinking Sam Adams. I had a Sam Adams Oktoberfest and then a normal Boston Lager. I don't know if he meant Jason though. What are you drinking, Jason?
I had a Glenfiddich Scotch.
I think you did say that, didn't you? So he must have been asking me because you said. So there you go, Mark.
Now
Mark.
I'm wanting my. Yeah, now I want my friggin' my Jim Beam Devil's Cut. I'm trying to. Did I have Devil's Cut when we were doing D&D on Tuesday? I don't even remember.
I don't remember. All I remember is I was out of.
Therefore, you can have it today.
Yeah.
Did I seem excessively jolly on Tuesday night as you guys like fought and stuff, or not really?
I don't remember, Mark.
Questions that are not possible to answer of the DM because I mean, no matter how you answer, there's consequences.
I remember that I was out of rye, so I couldn't have an old fashioned, so I had beer. I don't know what you
were
had.
A little cranky about that. I might have had some Devil's Cut.
Yeah, roll perception. Yes, thanks, Josh.
Might have. Yeah, you don't want Nate rolling. Oof.
No, I roll poorly. Anyone who's ever gamed with me knows that I am one of the worst.
Oof. Although I think the real shitty roller on Tuesday was Adam. Man, he was.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
If we're gonna play this game, so how long do your D&D sessions usually go?
3 hours.
Oh, about 3 hours, yeah.
Okay, so in the span of that 3 hours, what is, and I don't know that you're holding a counter for this, but what is the most number of ones you have seen a person roll in that 3 hours?
Well, if you count my my Drider NPC, she had advantage on a saving throw against being charmed, and she rolled double ones. So that was
but a single person, are you talking like 5, 10, 20, 30? Because I can roll
not to that level now.
I can roll easily in a single session of D&D for 3 or 4 hours. I could piece of cake for me to roll 31s.
No, it never even gets that close. We get we get a smattering of ones.
I get 30 rolls in a night.
I will roll ones left, right, and sideways. It is really bad. And yet we somehow squeak out the other end.
We can solve this right now. Jason, do you have any dice handy?
Do I have dice handy?
I got here's my bag of dice right here.
Are you gonna make me try to roll a 1 in command now?
No. Well, you're gonna roll and I'm gonna roll, and we're gonna see who rolls worse.
Well, I'm gonna roll too.
You're gonna roll 2. What are we rolling? D20s?
I got a D20 in my hand right here. We can roll whatever though.
My D20.
Ready? Oh, mine almost fell off. What's yours?
I rolled an 11.
I rolled a 4.
I rolled a 15. You all die.
You're the
15
DM. We die
bitches.
whether we want to or not.
But I'm not a sadistic. I'm not a sadistic DM, am I, Nate?
Josh
I
says he rolled a 2. He wins.
Oh,
That's a 5.
not good.
That's a 9. Hey, an 18.
Look at that.
18 right here. 5.
The thing that gets me is in the sessions that Mark and I are talking about, we're using Roll20. So it's not even physically my dice, and I still roll terrible. So it really is just luck.
Yeah.
You know what's absolutely horrible? When especially not one of the more powerful monsters just rolls like a beast. And because I use open rolling now, I can't fudge it and save you guys.
Right.
I
Like,
feel
oh, crap,
I
you rolled a
feel so
20.
bad.
That was a 12. We're good.
Yeah. I can't even do that anymore.
No,
I feel so bad.
Jason and I, when we both worked at the college, used to be part of, well, in fact, we founded a thing we called the Gamers Working Group, because when you work in higher ed, everything's a working group.
Sure.
And it was me and him and the head of our web development team. And he was our DM, right? And we were playing a game called Savage Worlds, right? Savage Worlds?
Yep.
And anyone who's ever played Savage Worlds, it's very similar to D&D, except you roll mostly 6-sided dice. A couple things
no
are
D20s.
8-sided dice. There's no D20s, really. And it has this mechanic where instead of a critical hit, you get exploding dice, right?
Yep.
If you roll a 6 on your 6-sided dice, you get to roll it again. And if you get another 6, you roll it again. If you get another 6, you roll it again. Well, Rich,
I've played those systems.
Rich, who was another player, for whatever reason, whenever Ken, he was the DM, whenever he would throw like a crazy huge like boss type monster at us, all of a sudden Rich would explode his dice like 27 times in a row and one shot the bad guy.
Oh man.
Yeah, but
Every time. But then this little NPC with a hand axe kills him in one shot on accident.
Yep. Yeah, that was a fun battle. So we come into the room, and there's like this big snake creature, and Rich is a
rules lawyer.
Yeah,
is the word you're looking for.
Yeah, that's the nice way of putting it. So he's got like all these different skills, and he adds things up, and he comes in, he's like, okay, so this is the advantage I get, and minus this and plus that and everything else. And he starts rolling, and he just rolls 6 after 6 after 6 after 6, and he takes this guy out in one shot.
Yeah.
And the DM's like, you can just see the DM's face, just like, oh crap. Okay.
It's hilarious. He had this epic battle in mind, and then just like dead.
Right, this little mook character comes up who has like 1 hit point. He's gonna get killed. He's like,
and
okay,
then throwing axe.
Throws his hand axe at you, and the DM starts rolling, and he rolls a 6, and he rolls another 6, and now you see the smile just coming up. And he just rolls and rolls and rolls until he finally gets it, and he ends up killing Rich.
It was great.
It was the best.
It was great.
And then we took him out to the ocean, and we put him on a.
Oh, we did. We gave him like a Nordic send off, didn't we?
Gave him a Viking burial, and then later on that night, the Nalgafar, the ship of nails, came back.
That's right. He came back as a zombie.
And Rich was on it. And
oh dear.
He wasn't a zombie. He was alive.
Oh.
He was slightly pale and had no hair on his body, including his fingernails.
I remember that.
Nalgafar is the ship of nails.
Those were the days.
Yep.
Those were the days.
Lots of fun.
That group is still going, by the way. They were still going when I left, and
You guys were long past Savage Worlds, though. You switched
No.
over to. Did they switch over to Pathfinder?
We did Pathfinder very briefly. Did we? I think we did.
I play Pathfinder now.
We
That's
played
fun.
some D&D 5th edition. What we were playing most when I left the college, we were playing this thing
that Tim had made up sort of his own very basic rule system, and the idea was that it was more like a theater of the mind kind of thing, where
Theater of the mind.
well, you were like playing out a movie is basically what he was going, and the rules he just kind of made up as he went along, and he's trying to be fair with it and whatever. It was kind of fun, and then I left the college, so. But it was
your
cool.
Character immediately died a horrible death.
No
He
doubt.
did. He got blown up trying to breach a dam. There was a reason. There was a reason we were doing that. I forget what it was.
I don't know what happened to my character. I assume he just fell off the map. I never found out.
I don't even remember what we were playing when you left. When you forcibly left.
Forcibly left. When I was ejected?
Yeah, when
Yes.
you were ejected. All right, so anyway, we're getting way off topic as usual. I hope you guys enjoyed our 4-year episode. I don't have any other content lined up, so we're just going to close it here before we ramble on for another 2 hours, because we could. We could.
And that,
No
folks,
doubt.
is how you take a 1-hour podcast and make it 2.
That's how you make a 2-hour podcast out of reviewing a 1-hour show.
Self-control.
We even fast forwarded through it too.
We did. We skipped quite a bit. But we're still not at the 2-hour mark. We have to ramble on some more. So, I hope you guys have
Save some for
enjoyed.
next week.
I hope you guys have enjoyed the last 4 years of Iron Sysadmin podcast, and I hope you'll join us next week when we talk to Ed Scotus, because it's going to be a good time. It always is.
Oh, wait, we're continuing this? I thought it was 4 years and we were done. Is that not?
Well, you can go if you want. We can go find another co-host.
Ejected again.
So I do want to say I want to thank Jason especially, because you've been here since the beginning. I want to thank Marc for joining recently. I want to thank Dustin, who we haven't seen in a long time, but he was a co-host for quite a while, in around the 2-year mark, if I remember correctly.
Another baby, blah, blah, blah.
And Charles, you guys have been great. You've helped me make this show into something that's actually enjoyable to listen to. I've only done one episode where I was alone, and it came out terrible. I don't recommend anyone ever goes listen to it.
Which
So,
episode?
I don't remember.
I'll bet it was shorter.
It's probably 2 years ago at this point, maybe longer. But yeah, it was not a great show. I even forgot to record the beginning of it, and I had to download it from the YouTube live stream and splice it together. It was kind of terrible because I was so nervous about running it alone. So anyway, hopefully we're around for another 4 years or longer, and you guys keep listening. We'll be here as long as folks enjoy the show. We'll be here putting them out. So.
We'll be here at least that long, and then we'll probably be stubborn for at least 6 months after that.
At least. We have no more listeners, guys, but we're gonna keep doing this.
Keep going.
All right, so if you want to hear this live, on most months, you can hear us the second and fourth Thursday of every month, except for this month and probably next month, because Christmas is gonna mess up the second show of next month as well.
We don't want to record on Christmas Day.
I mean,
isn't that what it would be?
It might be. I don't know. It would have been Thanksgiving Day if we did it next week or 2 weeks from now.
Spend the day with you, but I have a podcast to do.
Yeah, right. Sorry, family. I have to go do a podcast. Right, so you can listen to us live either via YouTube, youtube.com/Iron Sysadmin Podcast, or twitch.tv/Iron Sysadmin Podcast. You can join our community if you would like to. There's a link to it, which I can't recite on the air because it's too long. But if you go to ironsysadmin.com, there's a menu item in there that goes to the community. It'll take you to Matrix, which is the new coolness that I still like better than Discord. I'm going to be angry about that. Although, I have to say, Discord is growing on me. BSidesDE Delaware has done some really cool stuff in their Discord, and it's actually pretty cool. I want them to support multiple profiles, damn it! That's the hill I'll die on. Damn, I mean it.
Sorry.
Anyway. Where was I? Right.
Trying to
Social.
wrap up.
You can find us on Facebook and Twitter. Let's look for the Iron Sysadmin Podcast. And with that, folks, thank you for hanging in for this 4-year episode, and we will catch you in the next one. Remember, 1 week from now, not 2.
Next week, yay.
Next
Peace
week.
out till next week.
All right. Now I got to get back to the stream thing and do this transition-y thing. We will. What I need where is it?
I wasn't.
No,
I wasn't ready.
No, what? Up a little bit.
I wasn't. Here.
Are we
Here
still?
it goes.